This is my story. I, 48F, grew up in the system. I never knew my parents and I was tossed from foster home to foster home. Growing up in the foster care system was hard and it gave me a lot of insecurities. However, at 22, while I was waitressing, I met my now ex-husband. It was the moment my life changed. My ex-husband, 54, loved me, cherished me, and cared for me. And even after 2 decades of marriage, he still treated me like we were newlywed. However, as I reached the age of 47, I found myself taking my ex-husband's love for granted, and I started finding fault with everything he did, even though there was nothing wrong with anything he did. There was this constant thought in the back of my mind that somehow I had missed out on life. In short, I felt a craving for something else, somebody else, and it was the beginning of the end. Our 2 children had already left the nest, so we had all the time in the world. We went on dates, traveled the world. We started doing renovations in our house. Life was good. During this time, something snapped in me and I became obsessed with various fitness influencers on social media, and it made me feel insecure about my appearance. So I joined a local gym and started working out. I was awed at the transformation of my physique. I felt myself becoming confident for the first time since I had my 2 children. The newfound confidence I gained was exhilarating, but it also left me questioning my place in my marriage. Despite my ex-husband's continued displays of affection and initiatives for sex, I found myself withdrawing emotionally and physically. At first, I attributed my diminished libido to the empty nest syndrome and having too much time at hands, so I dismissed his concerns and rejected the idea of counseling. But my withdrawal persisted, and I could feel our bond weakening over time, replaced by a growing sense of dissatisfaction on my part. Then a new fitness instructor began working at my gym. He was young, early 30s, and very good looking. All the ladies were excited, and there were a lot of giggles and whispered conversations about him. It was all innocent fun until one day he sought me on one quiet evening. There was barely anybody in, so he found me and we started chit-chatting. He corrected my form several times and taught me a new leg workout. His attention flattered me, though I doubt he had any attraction towards me at that point. I started flirting shamelessly whenever he was around, and finally he started to notice me. What began as harmless banter soon escalated into a full-blown physical affair. In hindsight, I realized he only saw me as an easy lay, a desperate, bored cougar eager for some young meat. But at that time, I failed to see this. I was in such a high, and I felt like a high school girl around her crush whenever I was with him. This continued for a few months. My ex-husband started noticing the change in me, and he grew concerned. As my ex-husband's suspicions grew, it led to heated arguments and tension between us. He was no longer warming up to me, and he constantly looked at me with uncertainty in his eyes. But I didn't care. I was blinded by lust. One day I went by AP's place. I had forgotten that husband and I started to share the location feature when I got my new phone. Well, that's how he found us. He rang the bell and my AP answered the door. My husband barged in past him and found me in the first room, naked. What ensued next was a horrible brawl between him and my AP. I hurriedly got dressed and tried to pull them apart, but to my horror, my husband had my AP in a chokehold. Finally, I called police emergency line and reported it as a break-in and a domestic disturbance. Cops came and arrested my husband. I would never forget the look of betrayal on his face when I dialed and started reporting him and not the AP. I've never seen him look so miserable. He didn't look at me or say anything to me as the police came in. He bent his head and walked out handcuffed. Cue families and friends getting involved, and the general attitude of disbelief, and all turning to me for an explanation of which I had none of. Within few hours, the news spread like a wildfire, and I kept getting screamed at by his parents. It was the worst moments of my life, and I had never regretted anything more in my life than going to the gym. My husband was released a few days later on bail. He was ordered community service and anger management sessions. Between him getting arrested and released, I went through every verbal and emotional abuse a woman can be put through. My children, my in-laws, my parents, my neighbors, my co-workers, all continued to cuss me out. My AP was displeased with me for calling police and laying bare to the outsiders what should have been a completely confidential matter. He blamed me for losing his job at the gym, and we had a fight. After that, my affair ended. My husband filed for divorce to no one's surprise. We were officially divorced this March. He's officially my ex-husband now. I got our marital house in exchange for alimony. My ex did not like this one bit, which is understandable, because he worked, saved, and had this house built all by himself. I almost feel like I did him wrong, but my reasoning was that I thought my children would want to come home during their breaks and sometimes during the weekends. It's been over 4 months since divorce, and neither of them have set foot in it. Neither of them ever calls nor picks up my calls. I hear all of them are over at my in-laws' place. My parents lash out at me whenever I visit them. My dad leaves and shuts himself in his room before I take a step into their house. My mom keeps going off that I'm a disgrace to them and I should not visit. But I have nobody else. My ex has understandably not uttered a single word to me since that evening I called police on him. Not even during mediation of our divorce. He just kept his gaze lowered. I found an online job that earns me commissions here and there. It's enough to pay my bills. I barely use any electricity and never cook because I can't afford to, but also because I don't have the energy to. Most days I do not even feel like getting out of bed. I no longer look at the mirror. I hate my being. I stopped going to the gym and let myself go completely. Today I'm in a 5-bedroom house, the same house I raised 2 children in with my loving husband. But I'm all alone. I have no one to talk to or no one to care about me. I'm in constant agony over what I did to my family. If any of you are ever thinking of straying outside your relationship, do not do it. That'd be the worst mistake of your life. Story 2. Wife of 12 years has cheated over and over again. She hates herself for it, but cannot seem to stop. We have been married for 10 years now together, for 12. We met in Washington and I chased her to Kansas. Because aside from that cheating and lying, she is perfect in my eyes. I caught her again and now she says she wants out. Said we are toxic together and want us separated so she can work on helping herself because she can't do it with me. Well, she has not at all worked on herself. Since the separation, not even a legal one. She has joined all dating apps and even left for the weekend, saying she was taking our only vehicle at the time to go get school supplies with my daughter and did not call or text till on her way back 3 days later. My daughter told me they went to a guy's house and stayed in few nights, and they were kissing and all sorts of stuff. She did not even know this guy, and I had to miss work because other kids were with me. Like, really? Shaking my head. Anyway, we still share the same bed. We still live together because we can't afford to live separate. But there is no love at all. It's hurting the kids, seeing her hurt me, and I just want her back because I'm dumb as fuck. I don't know how to handle this. Why are you doing this, OP? No, she does not hate herself for cheating on you. She loves it, and that's why she's doing it. She also knows she can get away with it because you let her. Remember, when you do the same thing over and over, it gets you the same result. So unless you put a stop to this, she'll keep doing it. Muster up courage and stop this. Don't let your kids think this should be the norm. This is not a healthy environment for them to grow up in. Comments. You've gotten used to the abuse. This is the only way your relationship with her functions. That's why there isn't any hope for your relationship. She's endangering your children with her behavior. You need to put your children first. Kick her out and pursue full custody. This will all have to be done through court. Sounds like your wife has some undiagnosed mental health issues. She could well be bipolar or BPD or various other things. It's not an excuse for her behavior, but her behavior could be a symptom. This is all very self-destructive, and I've seen it in my own wife, who is bipolar when she's manic. Suggest that she see a psychiatrist and get evaluated, but you can't force her to get help. Don't stay together for the kids. You can already see that's not great. No one can ever know what is between two people. There must be something about her that is right. I wonder if her infidelity is related to a behavior that creates an internal emotional response that either drowns out or soothes whatever else is going on inside of her. Or maybe she is not getting all of her emotional needs met in your relationship, which is no one's fault. I say that because though we are indoctrinated to believe that marriage is some kind of panacea, I don't think we always get what we want or need from one relationship. Either way, I hope you don't lose yourself trying to figure out how to keep her.